Have you ever seen a Formula One car that combines art, culture, and marketing strategy with surgical precision? Well, brace yourself, because what Haas has done for the 2025 Japanese Grand Prix isn't just turning heads, it's making history. The American team, which usually goes unnoticed in the hottest conversations on the grid, has made a statement with a cherry blossom-inspired livery. Yes, the Japanese Sakura. That's not only visually spectacular but also has a much deeper emotional, technical, and commercial undertone than it seems. Stay until the end, because we're not only going to break down the design, but also what this move really means for the team, its new Japanese team boss, and its recent connection with Toyota. To fully understand why this livery has caused such a stir in the Formula One community, it's essential to delve into the cultural context behind it. This isn't just a simple body color change, nor a soulless marketing strategy. What Haas has done with its VF25 for the 2025 Japanese Grand Prix is, at its core, an act of respect, connection, and identity. It's a visual statement laden with symbolism that goes far beyond superficial design. The cherry blossom, or sakura, occupies a central and deeply rooted place in Japanese culture. It's not just a seasonal icon, it's a manifestation of the country's collective soul. It represents fleeting beauty, renewal, the awakening of spring, but also the acceptance of life's transience. In Japan, millions of people gather each year to observe the cherry blossoms, a tradition that is not only aesthetic but also spiritual and philosophical. By choosing this symbol as inspiration for its car, Haas isn't just decorating a car. It's speaking the cultural language of the Grand Prix host country, a language the Japanese deeply understand and value. And this connection becomes even more significant when we consider the new context of the calendar. The Japanese Grand Prix, historically held in the fall, has been relocated to spring. A decision that, while seemingly technical and logistical, opens the door to a perfect alignment between the event and the symbolism of the Sakura. Haas has masterfully read this moment and capitalized on it, uniting the sporting and cultural aspects with a precision rarely seen in a paddock where the focus is usually on lap times and aerodynamic improvements. But there's an even deeper layer, the human factor. This isn't just a livery conceived by a creative department in the United States. It's also a direct tribute to Io Komatsu, the new team principal born in Japan, who will be managing his first home Grand Prix this year. This isn't just a livery, it's a visual love letter to his country, a way to show the world that the team also supports him emotionally, that it understands the national pride and symbolic weight of this moment. And to all this is added an even more significant strategic move on the business front, the recent technical partnership between Haas and Toyota Gazoo Racing. Nothing is improvised here. The Sakura not only connects with Japanese culture, but also visually links Haas with Toyota, its new technical partner. In other words, the design acts as a bridge between past, present, and future, between tradition and technology, between Japan and the United States, between public sentiment and the aspirations of a team seeking to move from being an underdog to becoming a respected contender. This cultural context is not only important to understanding the visual impact of the VF25 at Suzuka, but is also key to interpreting how Formula One is evolving beyond pure performance. Because in this new era of sport, stories matter. Emotions matter. And Haas, for the first time in a long time, has managed to build a narrative that is not only beautiful but powerful. The launch of the Haas team's Sakura livery has not only captured attention within the paddock, but has also triggered an unprecedented wave of reactions in the media, on social media, and among motorsport fans themselves. For a team that has historically remained in the media shadow of giants like Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull, the way this livery has captured the collective imagination represents a turning point. It is tangible proof that a team can gain ground in the sports narrative without the need for dominant victories or championships, simply by utilizing cultural intelligence, aesthetic sensitivity, and strategic timing. From the moment the first images of the cherry blossom-decorated VF25 began circulating, the F1 community responded with a mixture of surprise and admiration. On platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit, comments multiplied at a dizzying speed. Words like elegant, respectful, and sublime constantly appeared in the conversation threads. Even some users who rarely comment on Haas were now discussing the visual details of the side pod, the Japanese characters printed on the front wing, and the color balance between black, white, and pink accents. This wasn't a superficial response. It was an emotional connection that transcended the visual and struck a chord in the collective heart. In the specialized media, the design didn't go unnoticed. Analysts and renowned journalists highlighted the maturity of the proposal and how Haas had achieved something that many attempt but few achieve: creating a cultural homage without falling into appropriation or superficiality. Unlike other special liveries, which are often perceived as marketing campaigns disconnected from their context, the Haas livery was applauded for its narrative coherence. It was a complete story, a team with a Japanese director, a technical alliance with Toyota, a Grand Prix in Japan in the spring, and a graphic identity that amalgamates all these elements into a proposal that feels honest, aligned, and deeply thought out. Furthermore, the impact wasn't limited to the visual level. Many paddock experts have pointed out that these types of moves contribute to consolidating a team's identity. And for Haas, which for years has struggled to define its identity on the grid beyond being the North American team, this design represents a golden opportunity to reposition itself not only with the public, but also with sponsors, the press, and the talents themselves who might consider the team an attractive destination in the future. This media explosion, although focused on the livery, has served as a platform for the new Haas. One that not only wants to compete, but to connect. Of course, there were also some critical voices. On social media, a minority expressed doubts about whether such efforts should be a priority for a team still struggling to establish itself in the midfield. They argued that the energy and resources invested in aesthetics should be channeled directly into on-track performance. But this criticism loses force when considering the context. Because, in reality, the unveiling of this special livery didn't come at a time of crisis, but rather after a solid weekend at the Chinese GP, with clear signs of technical progress. It's precisely this combination of on-track improvements plus a well-aimed media coup that turns this move into a multifaceted victory. And in a sport where visibility is key, where sponsorships are earned not only with points, but with exposure, presence, and narrative, what Haas has done with the Sakura design could mark a turning point. Because it's not just about the world talking about them for a weekend. It's about the fact that, for the first time in a long time, the conversation isn't about their mistakes, their lack of performance, or their management decisions, but about their ability to excite, connect, and communicate with a clarity that many teams, even the big ones, would envy. What's truly fascinating about the Haas case at the start of the 2025 season is that, while the Sakura livery has grabbed the spotlight, that livery might not be the most important event happening within the team. Because behind that cultural and aesthetic veneer, there are signs of something deeper, an internal transformation that suggests we are witnessing the beginning of a new era for the American team. For years, Haas has been one of the most inconsistent and underrated teams on the grid. Since its arrival in 2016, its history has been marked by ups and downs, controversial decisions, management issues, and an identity that seemed to dilute with each season. But what we are seeing now is not simply a change of image. It is the external manifestation of a much more serious, silent, and ambitious restructuring that has been taking place since the departure of Gunther Steiner and the arrival of Io Komatsu as the new team leader. Komatsu represents a different vision. His leadership style, much more methodical and technical, is beginning to consolidate a culture based on analysis, perseverance, and long-term development. Under his leadership, the team has not only improved organizationally but has also begun to make more mature decisions regarding the development of the car. Proof of this are the technical improvements introduced at the Chinese GP, which directly target one of the team's most persistent weaknesses: stability and performance in high-speed corners. And these have not been symbolic improvements. They have produced tangible results. Haas, for the first time in a long time, has managed to remain competitive in conditions that traditionally condemned it to the back of the grid. But there is something even more interesting. The recent technical alliance with Toyota Gazoo Racing is not a simple collaboration agreement. It is a strategic move that could completely redefine Haas's technical and operational profile in the medium and long term. Toyota isn't returning to F1 on a whim, and the fact that it chose Haas as its initial partner indicates confidence in the project. This partnership could translate into access to high-level infrastructure, cutting-edge technological resources, and synergies that until recently seemed unthinkable for a team with Haas's budget and structure. And this is where the Sakura livery takes on new symbolic value. It's not just a marketing strategy to generate headlines at a specific race. It's the crystallization of a new mindset within the team. One that understands that to compete with the big boys, it's not enough to have a reasonably fast car. It requires building a brand, a narrative, and identity. And that's exactly what Haas is starting to do. The livery, which pays homage to Japan, the team principle, and the alliance with Toyota, doesn't just communicate respect. It communicates planning. It communicates purpose. And when a team begins to act with purpose, the consequences are seen on and off the track. From a purely competitive perspective, It's still too early to know whether Haas can establish itself as a real force in the upper midfield or even aim for podium finishes. But what is clear is that the team has stopped improvising. It's no longer a footnote. It's building a narrative, making smart decisions, and starting to receive attention not for its mistakes, but for its vision. And in modern Formula One, that's no small feat. It's, in fact, the first real step towards something much bigger. Something that, until recently, seemed beyond Haas's reach. But now, not so much. After thoroughly analyzing everything this new era represents for Haas, it's impossible not to pause for a moment to reflect on the path this team has taken and where it seems to be heading. Because what began as a simple aesthetic revelation, a special livery for the Japanese Grand Prix, has transformed into a narrative catalyst that forces us to look at Haas with different eyes. We've seen how the Sakura livery not only connects with Japanese tradition but also aligns perfectly with the team's new identity. Renewed leadership with Japanese roots, a calendar reconfigured to give the tribute a seasonal meaning, and a technical alliance with Toyota that could mark the beginning of a revolutionary collaboration. None of this is coincidental. It all responds to a logic of transformation that goes far beyond superficial marketing. But the most important thing in all of this is not what has already happened, but what this moment could herald. Because if modern Formula One has taught us anything, it's that teams that grow, that evolve, that intelligently reinvent themselves, don't do so overnight. They do it step by step. And every step counts. The unveiling of the VF25 in the Sakura livery could be precisely one of those key steps that, over time, are remembered as the beginning of something bigger. And it's not just about what happens on the track. In an F1 era where stories are as powerful as engines, Haas has achieved what many teams desire but few achieve, becoming relevant, sparking conversation, and above all, generating excitement. That intangible, that connection with the audience, is pure gold in a sport as competitive, media-driven, and technologically saturated as today's. So, ultimately, what Haas has achieved isn't just a pretty decoration. It's a message that says, we're here, we have something to say, and we're going to say it our way. And if that doesn't mark the beginning of a new era, then we don't know what will. Now it's your turn. Do you think this move by Haas is the beginning of its definitive transformation or just a moment in its history? Leave your opinion in the comments. I want to know if you also sense something important is changing on the grid. And if you enjoyed this in-depth analysis, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because in the next videos we'll cover everything happening with Ferrari, Hamilton's disqualification, the chaos at Red Bull, and much more. Here we don't just talk about Formula One, we break it down.